Welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news, and it's a Sunday morning, so we've got lots to talk about. Ten Hag's come and get me plea for the Man United job, plus a big thing that Ten Hag would want to happen at United if he was in charge that I think many United fans would be even more excited about. Also, some more around Paul Pogba, somebody close to him saying that Paul Pogba will leave in June. We'll talk about that. We're also going to be talking about Fred. We're also going to be talking about other transfer stories this morning, and a little bit about the game from yesterday. I don't think there's masses to talk about, but the big story is Ten Hag this morning, of course. But I just want to start off by saying, isn't it nice to wake up to a good result? I said it on Twitter last night. All these United players are obsessed with, their social media perception and being liked. The simple answer is, and it's so simple, win football games and people will like you. It's as simple as that. And I don't know why they spend so much time trying to spin positives from negatives. Just go and win a game of football. And, look at Ronaldo last night. The big thing I want to just say about Ronaldo very quickly is that I know for a fact that over the last week, people in and around Man United have briefed against Ronaldo. Now, I'm not going to say who, because that's not my responsibility. Journalists know it, it's their job. But people within Man United have briefed actively against Ronaldo over the last 7 days. Basically, since the Manchester derby, they were actively briefing against him to try and make him the scapegoat, even though he didn't play. Take the scape away. He ain't a scapegoat. He's just a goat. That's what Ronaldo is. And he didn't just sit his haters down. He sat a lot of people within United down yesterday. There'll be certain players who put a smile on and know they've been made to look idiots, and there's certain people in the club who've been made to look idiots. And it's funny, isn't it? Because social media guy is stuck behind the phone taking Ronaldo things again. They can't stop talking about Ronaldo on social media again because that will get them the interaction. And yet these same people within that club are briefing against him for a week. Disgusting behaviour from the club. And Ronaldo won't be blind to it. He will know. He will know what happened because he knows everything that goes on around that club. And that club, they're just using him. They're using him for whatever story they can to deflect the blame or take the praise. And Ronaldo sat a lot more people down than his haters yesterday. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, moving on with the show. It's nice to be in a positive position. What a fantastic hat-trick. I mean, I could just talk about it all day. Just brilliant. He won us the game yesterday. I'd said it in my match reaction. Many of you said it as well. There's nothing wrong with saying this. Conte said it. If you take Ronaldo out of that game, it's not such a good day for United. And I think he's right. I do think Ronaldo made the difference. But I also want to say, let's not take away from some of the other performances. I thought Sancho played well, Fred played well, Telles played well, Varane played well. Rangnick did a good job as the manager. And ultimately, yes, I don't think we win the game without Ronaldo, but I don't necessarily think we lose the game without Ronaldo. I just think he was the game winner in a very even game. Hi Mark, my first game at Old Trafford, it was life-changing. Going to the game Tuesday, hopefully Mr. Champions League shuts them up even more, says Ibrahim. Just remind me in a little bit to come back to what Ibrahim has just said there, because I got a message from somebody today, last night, who was at the game, and gave me some real interesting insight into the game from their opinion that I thought, I've got to share this with the community because I think they'd be very interested, because if you go to a game, you obviously see things differently to what you see on the TV. You can follow certain players, you can follow their body language, etc. Well, I'll read it to you now just before we talk about Ten Hag. It's from Alex. He says, I was there at the game yesterday and some of the things I saw were so telling. Not sure if it was brought up on TV, but players visibly pissed off with Maguire. At one point, Maguire wanted a short ball from De Gea. Fred was going mad, shaking his head. The ball goes to Harry. He makes a poor pass and Spurs get a chance. The fans were on Pogba's back a lot as well. Maguire barely got a cheer at any point. Spurs didn't really control anything, if I'm honest, but when Spurs putting the ball across the box, it was fully evident that we are vulnerable as Maguire has got no clue what he's doing. Ronaldo, apart from the obvious hat-trick, little low fives constantly to players, always encouraging, always directing De Gea. He was involved in everything, but Maguire and Rashford not really interested. Maguire first to leave celebrations after a goal. He looks finished, mate. I thought I'd pass that on. I don't know. Some people at the game might not agree with all that, but I thought, I got the message. I got an email actually, and I thought, you know what? Very interesting observation, because what I did pick up from the TV that Ronaldo was the leader on the pitch. It wasn't just the goals. He was pressing, he was encouraging, he was dropping deep. I thought even if he hadn't scored goals, it would have been absolutely a fantastic performance. So, yeah, cheers for that, Alex. I think everyone probably took something out of that. Anyway, look, we'll come back to that in a minute. Let's talk about the headline. So, a bit of I wouldn't say it was a brief last night. It's coming from the Mirror this morning that Ten Hag is willing to answer Manchester United's managerial SOS, become Manchester United manager, and also wants to work with Ralf Rangnick. Now, it's really interesting because it's not... I'm at the stage now with United's journalism that there are certain journalists that I think have basically been tapped up to be pro-Pochettino. They will know this story last night. I was in a WhatsApp conversation with a journalist last night who is very, very good, and they were saying something's happened in the last few hours because there's stories about Ten Hag wanting the job and his willingness to work with Rangnick. Don't be surprised if a story comes out about it. And lo and behold, it's come out. But it's not really coming out from as many people as I would have thought it was in relation to who I was talking to last night. And that's not where I wasn't talking to the guy from the Mirror. So clearly, we saw this with Pochettino back in November. This is coming from Ten Hag's side. It's not coming from United. But it's interesting how there's a bit of a lack of these journalists last week who couldn't stop talking about Pochettino, are saying nothing at the moment about Ten Hag. But you can take that to the bank. Something happened last night around Ten Hag's side where he's basically saying to United he wants the job. So Ten Hag wants the job and he's willing to work, in fact wants to work with Ralf Rangnick. That is a very interesting development because the worry was, would Ten Hag want to work at United under the structure that we have? Because he's very used to working with an organised structure at Ajax. Have United got that organised structure? Not really. And what he's basically saying is, I want the job, but I want to work with Ralf Rangnick above me because that provides me with the structure that I'm used to, like I have at Ajax. And it would be a dream team. It would be a dream team. I think everyone would agree with that. We don't know whether it would work. I'm always going to say any manager at United's a risk. Our board is very difficult to work with. We've had Mourinho, we've had Van Gaal, we've tried the local, the legend in Ollie. We've now looking at another manager and there is no guarantees. But I absolutely 100% believe that Ten Hag is the right way to go. And if he works with Rangnick, I think this would be great. And anyone who's got any doubts about Rangnick, we're not talking about Rangnick as the manager of Manchester United. We're talking about, I would actually do your research on Rangnick over the last 10 years. I wouldn't think about Rangnick as a manager. I think this is a bit like a fact-finding mission for Rangnick. He's going to move upstairs into an advisory role about recruitment, retention, scouting networks, etc., which is what his expertise is. But to do that, he's going to be armed with the information about the squad, in-depth knowledge of how these players' personalities, squad and limits are. So I think that's massively important for Manchester United. And the fact that Ten Hag wants to work with somebody like that, look, it's on a plate for United to go and get Ten Hag. He wants the job. That's the story this morning. He wants the job. He wants to work with Ralf Rangnick. And United are going to have to dress this up in a different way because, as we know, United want Pochettino and the press are briefed to push that. So, but interesting. I'm not going to get too excited because I think we all know what United want to do. They want to go for Pochettino and that's the story they need to spin. But Ten Hag wants the job and he wants to work with Rangnick. And the frustrating thing is if that doesn't happen, we've got Rangnick in place. We're not bringing Rangnick in from Moscow. He's already at the club. He's just got to move upstairs and Ten Hag comes in. They will work together, I think, a lot better than Pochettino's going to work with our board. So let's see what happens with that. But he wants the job. I feel optimistic this morning. I agree with what Roy Keane said last night. I don't think Cristiano Ronaldo's the problem. I think when you see Ronaldo last night, he's a player that we can build the team around and certainly use his leadership, especially over the next few weeks. There needs to be a bit of a clear out. But ultimately, I think that there's an opportunity there for Manchester United. And you talk about Pochettino, and there's a bit of an update from France this morning around Pochettino, basically saying, excuse me, I think there's something in this room. I need to diffume it or something. Every time I start talking here, I get bunged up. Every other room in the house, I'm absolutely fine. It's this one. Anyway, so yeah, with Pochettino, they're talking in France this morning that he will be sacked by PSG in the summer. Obviously, we know that Manchester United want Pochettino, but the really interesting thing with Pochettino is this. He's under contract till 2023. Ten Hag, and I just want this to be absolutely known by everybody, Ten Hag is the easier person to get. For me, he's the right person to get, but he's also the easier person to get because of this. Ajax like Ten Hag, but also much the same as when they sold as Donny, much the same as when they've sold De Jong to Barcelona or De Ligt to Juventus or any other player that they've sold in their history, going right back to selling people like Rijkaard. You know, the reality is that Ajax know that their role in the modern football is if they produce a top talent, they're going to move on. And they don't stand in the way. And they are open to letting Ten Hag actually negotiate with Manchester United now if he wants to. Because they know and are grateful of what he's done and they know he's going to move on. So Ten Hag is an easier person to negotiate with over the next few weeks than Pochettino, who is still under contract with PSG, who want to sack him, but also aren't stupid. They're like, if you want to talk to Pochettino now or at the end of the season, we want some money for it. Because Zidane is free. They're not negotiating for Zidane. Zidane is not in a job. Zidane is a piece of piss. PSG can speak to Zidane now and say, we want you to take the job in the summer. We're just going to get a bit of money out of United for Pochettino first. What do you want to do in the summer? Now, I'm not saying PSG are going to get Zidane, but they're not in any rush to just say... They want compensation for Pochettino, basically. So not only would Pochettino be the wrong choice, in my opinion, for United over Ten Hag, we'd also end up paying more money for Pochettino over Ten Hag, which is just typical of United. And I don't think people realise this, and somebody needs to dig deep into the Pochettino to United job when it happens, because we will be paying PSG money for him. When, not only is he a twice sacked failure, we're also going to pay millions of pounds to get him, which is just ridiculous. So Ten Hag is the cheaper, easier option over Pochettino. People think Pochettino's the easier option because he's going to get the sack in the summer, but he's not been sacked yet. And to negotiate with him before the end of the season, it's going to cost money. And PSG know that. So they're going to take us for fools. They're going to take us for 10 million, I reckon, just to get him. So watch that with interest. Ten Hag definitely wants the job. Happy to work with Ralf Rangnick, and easier to do a deal because Ajax are open to letting him go. Pochettino, PSG, probably won't want to work with Rangnick, and we're going to have to pay money for him, and I think is the worst option. So that's where we are at the moment, but the most important thing is United still want Pochettino. So let's wait and see what happens. So yeah, that's where we are with Ten Hag. Let me just talk to you about Paul Pogba very quickly, because there are rumours that PSG want Paul Pogba. There was a story yesterday that I didn't really mention in the watch along because, well, I'll tell you what it is. A personal trainer, I think it is, of Paul Pogba has basically come out and said that United will make an offer to Pogba in the summer, but he will leave in June because he wants to go and play somewhere else. Now, Paul Pogba's not said that. Mino Raiola's not said that. They're not going to say that. His brother can say it. His trainer can say it. His personal shopper can say it. His hairdresser can say it. But we can say it. But the reality is, I don't think these Pogba stories do anybody any favours, whether it's Pogba or United or the fans. He was very important to us yesterday because Bruno couldn't play. He's going to be very important towards the end of the season. And the reality is he's probably going to leave in the summer, and it's probably the right thing to do. I don't really think there's anything sensationalist about Pogba probably going to leave in the summer. We all expect it, but the summer's in 3 months' time. He's not going anywhere before then. We use him as much as he's using us. Of course, it's embarrassing that United are going to lose him for free again. I think it's really, really embarrassing. But I look at yesterday, I don't think he had his best game. I thought he was quite average, really. But ultimately, would you rather Lingard played or Pogba? Because Bruno couldn't play. So that's the value of Paul Pogba for me at the moment. It's in the short term. Mbappe is free in the summer. I wouldn't be surprised if United spent all their time getting in him instead of a midfielder, says Jack Birtles. Well, look, I don't know what everybody's priority is anymore. But when I look at the game yesterday, the three areas that really stood out to me, and there are more. There's a young striker. We need a young striker. We know that. Do we need another right back? Do we need two midfielders? But the three positions that stood out for me yesterday. First of all, and always, for the last 2 years, we need a CDM. Matic is way better at it than McTominay. You can see the difference in Fred's game when he plays with Matic compared to McTominay. Fred didn't really have to do as much defensive work against a good Spurs side because he had Matic there. They ran through our midfield a lot. I'm not going to say that they didn't, but ultimately, I thought Matic is better than McTominay, but he's still nowhere near the level we need. He's not got the legs anymore. We desperately need a CDM, and we all know that. We need a centre-back. I personally don't think Maguire's game was as bad as some people said. It was bad, but it wasn't terrible. I think Varane makes him look a lot better. And I think that's a very important thing. Whether it's Lindelof, whether it's Maguire, we never see. Obviously, we never see Eric Bailly, and we've only seen Phil Jones once. But when Varane plays, the centre-back is better. But I'm not fooled by that. You take Varane out that team and we see how bad those centre-backs are. We need a better centre-back. We can't just put a centre-back next to Varane and go, oh, they weren't as shit as normal, because that's basically what we're seeing. I don't think Maguire was anywhere near as bad as he was in the derby, but he's still shaky. And anyone can score an own goal. I don't know why he's wearing pink boots. I'm stunned by that, but forget about the banter. I think he looks shaky. I think he looks nervy. I think he looks like he's vulnerable. But I think Varane makes him look better than he is. We need a centre-back who, when Varane is injured, is still good. And that's it. That's it in a sentence. I think all our centre-backs play better with Varane, and they don't look as bad. But that's the Varane effect. You take Varane out and they're bad. We need a centre-back who plays with Varane, or if Varane's out, they play and they're still really good. We need a top-quality centre-back, and we need a right winger. I personally would bring Bruno into the team on the right-hand side against Atletico Madrid. I would stick with Pogba, even though he wasn't that good. I'd play Sancho off the left, Bruno off the right, Pogba, and then he's going to play McTominay and Fred, isn't he? But I don't want to see Rashford starting again, and then either Pogba or Bruno. Well, Bruno might not play anyway, but if Bruno's fit, I'd put him on the right. And I'd try that out, because you've got to play Pogba and Bruno, and you've also got to play Fred and either Matic or McTominay. And I think that's the way to go towards the end of the season. Rashford, to me, was a lot better yesterday, but it was almost a sympathy vote to try and give him an average 6. He was below average. He was a 5 for me. It's Marcus Rashford. He's just so far below. The positive is you've got to say he was better than he was against Man City, but he was disgustingly bad against Man City. You know, you've got Monday Night Football showing him not running. At least yesterday he did run about a bit. He simplified his game a bit. He can certainly build on that, but it's still a weak spot for us, and I would bring Bruno back in there. Hi, Mark. I remember when you said Ronaldo peaks around March to May, following from yesterday. I think we're going to see something special. I think with Ronaldo, and I don't want to make it the Ronaldo show, because when you score a hat-trick, if you don't understand the greatness of that, you're lost. But if you look at Ronaldo's next 2 weeks, it's the biggest 2 weeks of his season. And, you know, yesterday against Spurs. The funny thing is with Spurs, and I want to talk about this in a minute, we beat Spurs yesterday, and there's an assumption that Spurs are now out of the race for top 4. I think they've got 2 games this week where they play their games in hand and we don't play. If they win them both, which is a big ask, but if they win both their games in hand, they're above us. It's a weird old season, because I think we had to win yesterday, and I thought, well, that's Spurs out. But then I was like, and look, they won't win both their games. One of them's against West Ham. But if they did win both their games, they'd go above us, because they've got 2 games in hand. It's weird. It's a weird old season. But I think Spurs was a massive game yesterday. Atletico Madrid, I'm so excited about, as I'm sure you all are. And then he's got 2 games for Portugal. Well, hopefully 2 games. One against Turkey and then probably Italy to go to the World Cup. Ronaldo needed that Portuguese break. I know people tried to make it a bad thing, but he needed that break. He needed to refocus. He's the example of what needs to be done. You know, whether the club sanctioned it or not, he knew what was right for him. He needed to get away. He needed to refresh his mind. He needed to go and fetch Sue. He brought her back. He scores a hat-trick. Look, the club might not have agreed with him going to Portugal, but at the end of the day, who's right? And the scary thing here is you've got Roy Keane talking yesterday, and he's completely right. He said, look, if Ronaldo's gone to Portugal without the club's permission, that's out of order. And there needs to be something said about that. But I suppose you're right. Roy's right. You shouldn't undermine the club. But what is the club? Rangnick's got no authority. You've got Fletcher, Murta, Richard Arnold, the Glazers. Even if they did say to Ronaldo, you shouldn't have gone to Portugal, do you trust them over a man who's been in the game for 20 years, winning absolutely everything? He clearly knew he needed a brain refresh. He clearly knew he needed some calm. I would never normally say this, because if a player's done what the club said you shouldn't do, they should be, reprimanded for it. But this is the big problem at United. Who is it telling him no, and why would you listen to them? And that's the problem. I think even if Ronaldo defied what the club said to go to Portugal, he's been proved right. He's had to get himself into this GOAT mentality. He's got 4 huge games. 2 are for Portugal, 2 are for United. Game 1, hat-trick. Old Trafford's going to be roaring on Tuesday night. You wouldn't bet against Ronaldo having a big game again, and then he's got 2 for Portugal. So massive, massive games. But the funny thing is, we don't play a league game now for just under 3 weeks. Our next league game is Leicester at home. We've got the Tuesday Champions League game, and then obviously we're going into an international break because we're not playing next week. But the interesting thing is for us is that Arsenal, we're 2 points ahead of Arsenal now. They've got 4 games in hand. But this time next week, they'll only have 1 game in hand. They're playing 3 games. Got Leicester today. I'm doing a watch along on That's Football. Tune in for that around 4 o'clock. Liverpool on Wednesday, and then they've got Villa away next Saturday. Now, we might not play for nearly 3 weeks, but can you just check if the oven's on, please? The reality is 200 degrees. The reality is that. Is it on?
No, but how you have to do the degrees in the other bit.
1 minute, I'll do it. This was meant to be done like 10 minutes ago. Oh, it's on, look. When the red light's on, that tends to mean the oven's on. So, this time next week, Arsenal will only have one game in hand. Now, it's a bit of a psychological thing for United at the moment because 2 points ahead of Arsenal, but 4 games in hand. It's a bit of a brain mess, isn't it? This time next week, 1 game in hand, I can deal with that. What's 1 game in hand? It's only 3 points if they win it. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, look, even if Arsenal win 1, draw 1, lose 1, they would only be 2 points ahead of us with a game in hand next week. So I'm looking at that. I'm going to watch every Arsenal game. I'm going to do them on That's Football. You're welcome to join me. But without playing next Sunday, 3 of Arsenal's game in hands will be gone. What we don't want is 2 wins. If they take 6 points from 9, that puts them 4 points ahead with 1 game in hand. That becomes quite difficult. We need to be within a win of Arsenal next week. And if we are, suddenly we're in a decent position. I find myself defending what the show is about. Don't people understand that being positive all the time is not helping our board? Understands the seriousness of the situation the club's in, says Nick. People can do what they want, can't they? Many consortium groups interested in purchasing Chelsea. Why does anyone not want to purchase our club? Don't we have any value to offer? James, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I didn't want to wander into that, but it sort of follows on from Nick's comment. The amount of clubs the amount of billionaires that are interested in buying Chelsea shows that if United was up for sale, there'd be a lot of people interested. I would say to anybody who knows these people, come on. There is Man United fans that will get behind your bid and help get the Glazers out of this club. If there's somebody out there that wants Manchester United to be a big club again and you've got the money to buy us, get in touch. Get in touch because there's so many people that would get behind you. I think the protests have been fantastic. But everybody I've ever spoken to, whether it's people from different groups or fans or everything like that, everybody knows that protests and everything are fine and they do make a bit of an impact for a couple of days. But we actually need a viable person or group that can buy the club, that are right for the club, that the fans can get behind. Because I'm telling you now, if Joe Bloggs had the money to buy United and then the money to make us great again, the fans would get behind it hugely. But that's the only thing we can do. We can target the sponsors, we can have a protest, we can do those things, and they are impactful. But the Glazers will just have a Zoom call with the fan forum again, and it'll get calmed down, and they'll lie about what shares they're going to offer up. What we desperately need, if we want to remove the Glazers, and I don't think it will happen, but what we desperately need is a proper consortium or individual who's got the money right now and passionately wants to buy the club. And if they did, you've just got to get in contact, and fans will get behind it, and that's it might take a bit of time, but it's better to be moving forward slowly than moving backwards. I think the sunshine over in Portugal had a huge influence on Ronaldo. Mark, maybe Bruno should go back for a few days, says Melps. Well, we're going to be talking about Bruno on the 8 o'clock show, so I don't want to really bring that into on a morning show because it's about the news. But yeah, there's a conversation to be had about Bruno and his impact on the team. That's what we'll talk about 8. And hey Mark, I don't know if it's just me or doesn't Rangnick look like he doesn't want to praise Ronnie, says Osman. Look, mates, I can tell you this for a fact. I'm not going to give you names because I think we need to be positive ahead of Tuesday, but I can tell you this for a fact. There are people within Manchester United, and that could be board, it could be players, it could be coaches leaking information, it could be anybody. Just open your mind. There are people in Manchester United who since the derby last week have briefed against Ronaldo. And it's been an issue. And Ronaldo, I'm sure Ronaldo doesn't give a shit about people who say Penaldo or Ronaldo's finished. But his motivation this week would have been to shut down a lot of the people who were briefing against him this week. And look, it's very clear that the Rangnick-Ronaldo relationship isn't necessarily as good as it could be because I don't think Ronaldo's very happy. I think Rangnick was misquoted a bit. He said he was asked about Ronaldo and he said, look, I wouldn't be stood here if there wasn't a problem. But he wasn't talking about Ronaldo. What he meant is he wouldn't be stood doing interviews for Manchester United if there wasn't problems at United. And what he means by that is that he wouldn't be stood there if everything was good at United because Ollie would still be in charge. But because it was talking about being asked about Ronaldo, people thought there was a problem between him and Ronaldo. There might be a problem between him and Ronaldo, but the reality is Ronaldo has proved him wrong. He's proved the club wrong. He's proved loads of people wrong because he's proved everybody what a match winner he is. And look, it's one thing to be a match winner against Brighton, but this is a guy who is a match winner in a game that we have to win. This is Spurs. If we draw that game, we're screwed. If we lose that game, we're screwed. Same as Atalanta away back in October. We're out the Champions League if he doesn't score that goal. Ronaldo this season has scored goals and won us games when it matters. It's hard enough being a match winner against a Brighton or a Crystal Palace or a Watford, but when you're a match winner against Spurs and Atalanta, when, you know, psychologically you could see those players draining, he's absolutely... That's what we bought him for. Why are English clubs run like Real Madrid and Barca, not run like Real Madrid and Barca, that gives fans real power over the board and bring accountability, says Animish. And Animish says, aren't. Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you meant, man. I just want to say as well, apologies. I was saying yesterday that we're looking to get, you know, like Beth and Levin and a few other people have come onto the channel because we basically do it twice a year where we say, if you want to get involved in the channel, send us a little clip in. I was talking about it on the watch along yesterday. The watch along, and I gave the wrong email address. I checked the email address today and we had none. I was like, oh, that's surprising. No one's bothered. So there's probably a load of people who've sent it to the wrong email address. So basically, what we're looking for is we're looking for a couple of people to get involved in the channel. One of those roles specifically, just because of the content ideas that we've got, has to be somebody based in Manchester. Now I don't normally like that, but Manchester United's ground is in Manchester, and it's for something we want to do. So if you're at uni in Manchester or you live in Manchester, you're a fan of the channel, you want to get involved, send us a 1-minute clip in to thatsfootballmedia@gmail.com. Not that's football, thatsfootballmedia@gmail.com. I've dropped the link in the video, I've dropped the email address in the video description. 1 minute on who should be the Man United manager and why. You know, if you've got a good setup and a good camera, great. Let us know a little bit about yourself as well, where you live. That's for the Manchester-based role. Obviously, we will be paying people for this role as well. So it's, you know, it's not just, oh, I fancy doing it. Hello, Mark. Love the channel. Yeah, I'll give the job to Pochettino because I trust the board. Yeah, I'm doing this on my dad's phone. No, we want, you know, this is the United stand. We are a fan community, but... You know, we're looking for really good people to get involved, especially with the Manchester one. If you're a professional, that's absolutely fine. So that's footballmedia@gmail.com for that. And also, we're looking for somebody in general. So, you know, think fan forums, things like that. We're looking for somebody in general that can be worldwide. So that's footballmedia@gmail.com. Somebody who's going to be living in Manchester, definitely for one of the roles, and then open to everybody for the other role. But if you're open to everybody, you're going to need the good setup, you're going to need the good camera, you're going to need the good background, because again, you're not doing it on your dad's phone in the car with bloody dial-up internet going like this. Maguire, it. You know, none of that. None of that. Now, that's not someone with a stutter. That's just crap internet. So yeah, link the email's in the video description for that. At least we'll get people. But yeah, do let us know where you live, because that we can't be asked replying to everyone saying where you live. So there's one for the Manchester and there's one for worldwide. And the Manchester role, you need to be in Manchester, definitely. And it doesn't matter whether you're at uni or you're in your 50s or whatever. You just got to be good, definitely. Russ says, how much you paying? Swivel on it, Russ. Don't even bother sending one in. If that's what you're, we're not looking for a bloody mercenary. We're not looking for a, you know, preferably I don't want an overhyped Leicester fan who's coming here for 80 million, who's just here for the money. Ronaldo owns the Champions League, says Donato. Yeah, I can't wait for Tuesday. Really can't. Just another news story. This is coming from, I can't remember who it's coming from. Basically, Dean Henderson goes in the summer and Sam Johnston comes in for free because he's a free agent. This is a good move for United. We've got to remove one of the goalkeepers. We said this a year ago. Clearly, De Gea is one of the best goalkeepers in the world at the moment, and we do need to remove one of the goalkeepers. So for me, it would be Dean Henderson. We can't keep paying 140 grand a week for Dean, and we can't keep paying 350 grand a week for David De Gea. Sam Johnston, all right, it's another player who's been at the club before. I get that, I really do, but he is a free agent. He is a decent backup goalkeeper. Let's get Dean out of the club. Let's get him in, and let's make some money, and let's trim the wage bill. That's a logical thing to do. And look, it's not all positivity, I know, but we've got one game on Tuesday. It's like a cup final, and then after the international break, God knows what happens. I think the bad times could come back as much as the good times, of course. But I don't want to just ignore, you know, one result. We can't just be somebody said it on Twitter today. I think it was Zara on Twitter said today, Fred played really well today, but it's not good enough. And what he said is what many of you've said. Fred can play like that 1 game in 4, but that's not good enough. He needs to be playing like that every week. And I think we're all full of praise for Fred, but it's almost like if a United player has 1 good performance, it resets the last 2 months of shit. And I thought Fred played really well yesterday, and I actually think a lot of it was to do with Matic behind him. Is he going to put in a good performance against Atletico Madrid like he did yesterday, or is he going to put in a performance like he did against Man City? We need that consistency, but Fred was a positive. There's another negative though. That team news was known at 1 o'clock yesterday. 1 o'clock yesterday. We're kicking off at 5:30, and Spurs knew our starting 11 at 1 o'clock. And the reason I know Spurs knew is because I knew, and the person who told me, somebody else knew who wouldn't tell me, but they knew. Because we were exchanging messages, and I was like, tell me the team then. And they were like, I'm not going to. And I said, is Matic starting? Yeah. And, in the exchange of 3 messages, I knew they had the team that I had. So that team was out at 1 o'clock. We can all put the clips of Ronaldo scoring a hat-trick, Ronaldo match winner, but there is massive problems in that football club. If I was in charge of that football club this morning, I wouldn't be in contact with my bloody social media guy going, yeah, I love your little clips of Ronaldo. I'd be like, why the hell is that team news out at 1 o'clock? And this is why the clubs run badly, because they won't be asking that. They'll just be like, yeah, Ronaldo, we've won the game. But from a position of strength, you should be dealing with the negativities. When you win a game like that, is the time to go in on the weak players. It's the time to go on and find out what's going on. I'd be going in on some of the players that didn't play yesterday because I knew I was in a position of strength as the manager. I'd say, look at the game yesterday. Must-win game. He performed. You didn't perform. Why? Because you're in a position of strength because you've just won. And I'd also be trying to find out who the bloody hell is leaking a team 4.5 hours before a game that we must win. Every advantage counts, and that team was leaked 4.5 hours before. It's disgusting. Is it players who thought they were playing and then didn't play? Is it a coach? God knows, but it's not acceptable. Is there a sanction where we can make Chelsea take Maguire for free? Says My Big Melons. So it's definitely an issue with the leaks. But a couple of things I just wanted to say as well. Ahead of the game, obviously we'll do the preview for the Atletico Madrid game tomorrow. But I absolutely just want to say, I'm a big fan of Luke Shaw. But the fullback situation is surely resolved. It's got to be Telles and it's got to be Dalot. I mean, look, Dalot yesterday, I want to give Dalot a bit of praise. I gave him a 6. There's nothing wrong with a 6, by the way. Average performance, there's nothing wrong with it. It just means you had an average game, which is fine. But Dalot yesterday, Telles got a lot of credit. I thought Telles, for me, was up there with Fred. I think they had very, very good games. He got an assist as well, remember, from the corner. I thought, Telles, very clever on the offside line. If he'd have wandered a little bit, Reguilon would have had a goal in the first half. So there was lots of things about Telles' game I liked. I thought Kulevski is really in form, and he did have some good moments, but Telles had a good game against him. It was a good old battle. I think some people think that you've got to pocket a player to have a good game. Sometimes you can be against a good player, and you can be a good player, and they can have a good game, and you can have a good game. And I think that that's what happened with Telles and Kulevski yesterday. But and Telles, for me, he's got to keep that left back spot. I think he was, there's always been this question against Dalot and Telles that, quite rightly, people would say they've had more game time this year, but they have been playing against the Norwiches and the Newcastles and not playing against the better teams. Well, that yesterday was their opportunity against one of the better teams, and they both played well. Now, Dalot didn't have as good a game. I mean, he cleared one off the line, remember? He did clear one off the line. I mean, people talk about, wow, Spurs did nothing. We cleared one off the line. One was marginally offside because Telles was clever. So they did have chances. But what I liked about Dalot is whilst he didn't have a great game, he did keep Son relatively quiet. And Son is one of the best wingers in the world, and he's in really good form at the moment. Also, he had absolutely nothing ahead of him. Rashford just doesn't link up with him with the overlap or anything like that. So I think when you take that into account, that he kept Son relatively quiet, he didn't really have any chemistry with Rashford. I thought Dalot had a good game as well. So shout out to the fullbacks. Next season, Maguire and McTominay out. What do you think, says Donata? Look, I wouldn't disagree with that, but I'll guarantee you that they're probably two of the players that I definitely know will be lining up for us next year, because the club have got no appetite to move those top sort of players out of the club. They will definitely be here. Let's have a look at some of your chats. I have to rewatch the match because I thought Tellez was terrible, defence was terrible, and even though he got the assist, he constantly gave away easy balls, says Trevor. Interesting. Delo should be linking up with Sancho. This is why I'd like to see Bruno come into the team off the right-hand side. It's a bit like if Mata had some legs, I wouldn't mind Mata playing there. I know they're not natural right-sided players, but Bruno's got a lovely cross on him. So from the right-hand side, but Bruno lacks pace. So if you put Bruno on the right-hand side, he'd support the midfield, he'd work hard, but he'd also be a player that, inverts, but also he's got no pace. So Delo and Bruno, they'd have to work together to work up the pitch. I really wouldn't mind seeing Bruno play off the right-hand side. I think it'd give us more structure. I think it'd give us more stability. And I think it would give us more creativity. And it'd make us defensively better as well. I would like to see that. But, yeah, look, didn't Bruno play off the right at Sporting? He did. Sometimes he did, Overdell. He did. And I just think you've got to get Pogba and Bruno in the team, but you've got to also get Matic and Fred in the team, or McTominay and Fred in the team. And to do that, one of them's got to play off the width. The other option is you could put Pogba off the left, Sancho off the right, and Bruno as the 10. But I think, however we do it, you've got to play Bruno, Pogba, McTominay and Fred, or Matic and Fred. You've got to do that for me. Maguire and Rashford need to be benched, says Kevin. I 100% think that Maguire will start on Tuesday. Somebody said on Twitter today, do you think that Rangnick's being told to pick Rashford? The trouble is that should not be the case, and it would always be denied. But at that football club, you just don't know. When the team news came in yesterday, I didn't really have a problem with Rashford starting, but I did say it, and I'll say it now. Both Rashford and Maguire are very lucky to start because their performances in the derby were diabolical, and yet they're starting in the next game. And also, let's not forget that they are massively influential people behind the scenes. They've almost got the ear of the board. They're that important to the club. So is it player power? I don't know, but they were both lucky to start yesterday. If we'd started the Swedish lads, if we'd started Elanga and Lindelof, I think a lot of people would have preferred that. But, at best it's a flip of the coin. Lindelof, Maguire, I'd probably go Lindelof based on I think he does better with Varane. Elanga, Rashford, it's close, but that's what I mean. I think Maguire and Rashford were lucky to start yesterday. It could easily have been Lindelof and Elanga. So did they justify their start? I don't think they did. And as I said, I don't know why Harry Maguire's wearing pink boots. Somebody needs to have a word with him. Like, he obviously hasn't seen the Phil Jones clip, has he? Like, why you would bring that sort of pressure on yourself, I just don't know. But look, anyone can score an own goal. The problem is he's particularly bad. You think back to the Sevilla semi-final a couple of years ago in the Europa League. Whenever there's a cross across our 6-yard box on the floor, he ain't great. He's just not great. We concede a lot of goals and near misses when someone puts a cross along the ground in our 6-yard box. And look, we conceded like that against Man City. And actually, I don't think his position was that bad in that game. But we don't concede. He's not very good at low crosses into the box. I think Maguire's the sort of player, he's an old-fashioned centre-back. When he wins a header, he doesn't really know where he's heading it. And when he puts a block in, he doesn't really know where he's blocking it. And that's great. But I think at the highest level, you look at Varane when he makes a block, he's not just putting his foot out, he's thinking about where he's directing the block as well. When he wins a header, he's not just getting his head on it, he's thinking about where he's heading it as well. And that's like seasoning your dinner. A bit of salt, bit of pepper. You can take something that's okay up to extraordinary. And I think Varane is a seasoned centre-back. And Maguire is just an okay centre-back. Varane's got the salt and pepper seasoning. Maguire hasn't. Because Maguire will stick his foot out and wherever it goes, it goes. Maguire will win a header and wherever it goes, it goes. Varane will win a header and he's looking at where he's heading it. Varane will block it and he's moving his foot in a way so that not only does he block it, it goes wide for a corner or it's cleared into space. It's like goalkeeping as well. It's the difference between a world-class goalkeeper and a good goalkeeper. Any goalkeeper can be a good shot stopper, but if you're palming it into the path of another striker or a danger zone, that's on you. The top-class keepers, they make a save and they tip it for a corner, or they make a save and they get it out of the danger area. That's the difference between being a top player and a world-class player. Your ability to, tackle is even in the tackle, even in the block, even in the save, It's about what you're doing. And you use it with strikers as well. Look at Ronaldo yesterday. He wins the header, but he also puts it... He doesn't need to put it in the top corner. He's won that header so clean, the keeper's not saving it anyway. He could have put that bottom corner. He could have put it closer to the keeper. The keeper wasn't going to say it. He puts it in the top corner. Doesn't need to put it in the top corner. But that's what a world-class player does. And a top striker gets it, heads it, it's in. But Ronaldo puts it in the bloody top corner as well. It's like when you threw one-on-one. You hit it near the keeper's legs, it goes in. A top-class striker will put it in the bottom corner where it can't be saved. And this is the difference for me. Is David De Gea a world-class goalkeeper, says Frank? Yes, when it comes to shot stopping, 100%. You look at the way he saves a shot and puts it out of the danger area, it's unbelievable. He's a brilliant shot stopper. I thought his look, on De Gea yesterday, there was a couple of occasions again where his distribution wasn't great, but there was one point in the second half where out of his hands, he kicks it with the outside of his foot and it lands straight into into their half. And I think is it Sancho or might have been Elanga, just controls it. So I thought that was impressive. Shout it out. But there was a couple of times, yeah. But what I do notice with United and De Gea is that a lot of the time where we give the ball away, I'm looking at the red shirts and people go, oh, he's just giving the ball away. But is the pass on? When it goes back to De Gea, I see a lot of United players turn their back because they don't want it. It's not like he's kicking it to Spurs players when there's a United player on. A lot of the time it goes to De Gea and all the United players turn their back and there's not a pass on. So sometimes it's about what passes on. Sancho was fantastic yesterday, definitely. And but yeah, if people have tuned in a bit late, Ten Hag wants the job. He wants to work with Rangnick. United want Pochettino. Let's see what happens over the next few weeks. But the man we wants the job and he wants to work with the man we want. I want to see Ten Hag in charge with Rangnick above him. That's the structure we know this football club needs and hasn't had for 10 years. We need to do it. But I think they'll go with Pochettino, and I don't think Poch will want to work with Rangnick. How good is Ten Hag? Any specific qualities, Mark, says Jazz? Look, in relation to Ten Hag, he's going to be coming into a league that he's never managed before. But Pep did it, Klopp did it, Tuchel did it, Mourinho did it. That doesn't concern me. Has he got a style of football that can live it in the Champions League? Yes. Can he take that Dutch side and compete against Bundesliga sides, Italian sides, Spanish sides, English sides? Yes, he can. And he's proved it over the last 3 or 4 years. This is the man that United need to build their future around with the support of Ralf Rangnick, who's been in the club for 5 months and knows what it's all about. That is the path. This is the way. United will probably ignore it. Thanks everyone for watching. Don't forget, thatsfootballmedia@gmail.com. If you live in the Manchester area and you want to get involved with the United stand, whether you're at uni, professional, whatever, send us a clip, 1 minute, of who you'd have as the next United manager and why. And also, if you live worldwide, if you want to send one in, but you're going to have decent setup to do it. Don't do it on your dad's phone. Thatsfootballmedia@gmail.com. We're back tonight at 8 o'clock. Tune in for that. Also, big game this afternoon. Leicester, Arsenal, 4:30. Huge for us in the top 4 race. We need Leicester to do us a favour. I'm doing a watch along on That's Football. Tune in for that. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Bit of positivity and we like it. Thanks for watching.